She'll see you. No one else will.
That's fine.
We're now live. Hello, and we are live, but of course in a minute, this has got a lag, so we're going to look like we're going out clapping for the NHS later than everyone else is going out, because there's a lag, obviously a minute or two of what we say and when it goes out, just in case I say anything dodgy. I think it's a Facebook filter. So I'm not going to say anything dodgy, honestly. Well, I won't, but Anna might. So we're going to be live in about 5 minutes. So hold your horses. We're going outside to clap for the NHS because it's 1 minute to wait for us now. It won't be for you, I know. We're going to do that, and then when I get back, we'll get started. So I'll see you in a minute. Yeah. Oh, the sound outside is amazing. We've got people all up and down the street blowing horns, whistling. Fireworks going off, clapping for the NHS. What a fantastic job they're doing in these very strange times we find ourselves in, ladies and gentlemen. So we looked at the demographic, and I'm going to say ladies and gentlemen, because there's a lot of ladies and a few gentlemen. So welcome to both of you. This is the first live broadcast, so don't expect it to be mistake-free, because I am winging this. And also, I've just bought a new bit of software, and I have no idea how to use it. So hopefully you can see me clearly and you can hear me clearly. If you can, then write a comment, and Mrs. Equidance is producer, sitting by me over here, and she will tell me if there's anything I need to know about. And the dog's just come in. That's always good, isn't it? Hello, Noodle. Do you want to see Noodle? Oh, I'll show you Noodle. Come on. There you go. There you go. Oh, there's Noodle. Noodle's come to say hello. Hello, Equidancers. How you doing? That's Noodle. She really doesn't want to be on screen, does she? So let's put her down and crack on. Right. We'd like some feedback from this, please. First of all, if you are not watching it yet, I can't talk to you then, can I? But we had so many people actually want to come on this. I didn't really think about how many wanted to join. So I've had so many emails and messages. I've been trying to get back to them all, but it's literally been me. It's not automated. We don't have staff. So if I haven't got back to you quickly, I'm really sorry. If you haven't got the PDF on an email, it's really simple. Just go to our website. It's www.equidance.co.uk, and you can download the PDF file, which looks like this. You can download the PDF, and on the PDF, it's got loads of useful information and links to places that we're going to talk about that you might need. It's even got dressage diagrams. It's not particularly pretty, because literally we had this idea 2 days ago, and so we've knocked this up as quickly as we can. Next week, it will look a little bit prettier. And talking about next week, we have Levi Hunt next week, who's fabulous. We've worked with him quite a bit, and he's going to talk to you about some in-hand training that he's been doing videos for, and general discussions about how we're all getting on. Of course, this week our special guest doesn't really need any introduction. It's the most amazing Anna Ross. We will probably just end up laughing a lot, but that's Anna, and we get on very well. Now, what else do I need to tell you about? What to expect? Well, I'm going to be talking to you about a bit of freestyle because it's weird times, and I know that a lot of you can't even get out to ride because it means unnecessary travel or whatever. Some of you can ride, have arenas at home, but what you can do with freestyle is you can do a number of things to get ready for when we get back out the other end of this and we can all start competing again. And what we'd like to do is inspire you and give you the tools and break down the barriers that you've got in your mind as to why you're not doing it, but give you the tools to get going. Now, I know lots of you out there are already my customers or already been to clinics, because as the emails come in, I recognize the names, and I do try and remember most of you, which is hard, but we try. So there's also going to be an offer for all of you. So all of you viewing today, if you want to get started, I'm going to tell you about an offer we've got at the end of the live stream, and I'll email you all explaining that later anyway. Anyhow, so let's move on. It's great to have the NHS doing such a fantastic job. Yeah, private message. My producer just said to me, if you've got any questions for Anna later, or if you've got any questions for me later, could you please PM them, private or DM them, whatever you want to call it, to Equidance, and Mrs. Equidance Kelly will be picking them up and going through them and picking the ones that we'll have time to do, rather than just putting them on the feed, because there's a delay on the feed here. So yeah, we'd like the PM them to us, and then we can ask either Anna or me the question, and we can hopefully answer it. Let's give it a go anyway. Right, on with the slideshow. We are Equidance, and we've been doing this now, making music and inspiring people with freestyle for just a little over 3 years, and loving every minute of it. It's been great to meet so many of you. I'm sure many of you might have seen the dismounted demo that I do around the country. Many of those have been BD events in the regions, and we've really enjoyed working with BD regions to roll this out and get people inspired. And riding clubs all over the country too. I think it's fantastic. It's one of those things that I think once you've given it a go, you realise how much fun it can be. And what we're here to do is trying to just explain a little bit more, so you can go, actually, I'm not that scared about trying this. We can do this, and we can do it well. So who are Equidance? Well, I met Mrs. Equidance 8.5 years ago, is that right? Yeah. Oh, look, I got a thumbs up. 8.5 years ago. I knew nothing about horses then. So most of you know that about me anyway. And I had to learn fast, because our first date was literally, well, not first date, the first time I went down to meet her in Cornwall, I had to go to the yard to meet the big grey mare Special. And for me, it was just like, she's a dinosaur, she's massive. But I had to very quickly get used to horses and working with them and dealing with them, because I knew that's what she was always going to do. But I soon learned to love them. And you know the story if you've been to my my demos before. But I enjoyed watching dressage. I went to listen to some dressage music at a gala evening, and I just thought it could have some improvement. And I've been a record producer for many years, sound engineer for many years before that. So editing music is kind of my second language. So we took this on, gave it a go, and I've enjoyed every minute. The company kind of started itself. And we've really enjoyed it, and we will continue to do so, hopefully, even in these weird times where everything's gone a bit strange and there's no competitions. We'll talk a bit about that later. So why are you here? Why are you watching? Well, hopefully, I know most of you are watching just because you want to see Anna Ross. But I'm sure some of you want to hear a little bit about freestyle. Let's hope so anyway. So hopefully you're here to just say, hey, you know, I don't know where to start, or maybe I want to improve. So a lot of people say to me, freestyle, it all seems so complicated. You know, this straight dressage, I know my parameters. I know where I've got to be. This letter, this transition, this pace, it's all there in front of me. I've just got to copy it, a bit like a record player. Or, you know, it's just like do exactly what it says. Well, freestyle is totally different, because you have to come up with your own floor plan for a start. and you have to do something that complements you and your horse, something that's going to work well. But then you have to choose some music and put it together. So when you ride it, the movements of the horse and the choreography fit with the music. Now, when that happens, it's a really good feeling for everyone, for people watching it, for people riding it, whatever. It's just fantastic. It's beautiful. Dancing horses, we call it. So it's very achievable, but people think it's very complicated. So what we're going to do quickly today is just to break down some of those barriers. So where do I start, or how can I improve? So the first thing you need to know about with freestyle is your goal setting. We have literally two sorts of clients. We have one client who obviously is always very competitive, and if they're going to do something in question, they want to win. So they come to me and they say, right, this is what we want to do. We want to get through into the regionals. We want to get to the nationals. We want to win. You know, they want to go as far as they can. And that competitive spirit is what competition is all about, obviously. But it's not the case for everybody. Some people enjoy riding, but would really love to go and ride to music. And actually, it helps give them the confidence to compete if they've got the music that they love running as well. So we find that quite a large section of our clients are coming to us saying, you know what, I don't care if I win, I don't care if I get the best marks, I just want to go out and enjoy competing with music I love, and I want to have a massive smile on my face. So we have this kind of triad of important things in freestyle. This is what we swear by. It's that you have got to love the music you ride to, and obviously it's got to suit the horse. And thirdly, the judges have not got to hate it. So that's our three requirements. You've got to love it, it's got to suit the horse, and the judge hasn't got to hate it. So if you can get those three things right, then that's a good formula. And if you look on the PDF that we sent you, there's actually judging guidelines at the end, which give you a good idea of what the judges should be looking for. Talking of judges, in 2 weeks' time, which is on the 9th, when the winters were supposed to be on, we've actually got Isabel Wessels joining us here, virtually, of course, and we're going to be talking about exactly that, the judges' perspective of the music, and that's really important. Floor plans. So one of our modules on the broadcast is going to be all about floor plans and floor plan design. And we're going to look in depth about what you can do, what you're able to do and allowed to do at certain levels, and what you're not allowed to do, how you can make it interesting, even at prelim and novice levels, and then more technical difficulty from medium above, and what you can put in to make it innovative and fun and different. But the floor plan is a really important part. However, once you've written the floor plan, you might write it on a diagram form like we've given you in the PDF file. What page was that on? You might put your shapes down on a grid like this, or you might write it out on a list, or however's easiest for you. You write your floor plan as a guide. Let me explain. When you write your floor plan as a guide, obviously we're going to arrange music, or you can arrange music to the video of the floor plan. It's much easier this way. So you write it kind of to your letters. But then afterwards, when you're playing back to your music, every surface and every venue will ride differently. And the horse might have different paces on a different day. You know, they can sometimes be a bit lazy. Other times they're feeling a bit sharp. So your job then with the floor plan is to actually adjust it slightly to fit the music. And we hear this time and time again. People don't quite get this right. They go out and ride to their music, and they're doggedly trying to get to A when their transition from trot to walk is, but the walk music's already started just around the corner. So the thing to do would be know your music so well that when you get close to, oh, I'm going to have to transition to walk, make sure you're in a position to transition so that you're hitting that music all the way through, because that is that's part of the music and interpretation mark, and the choreography marks are really important because they have a coefficient of 3 at novice and at 4 at elementary for your music interpretation. So that's big bucks when you're talking about squeezing every point you can out of a floor plan. So it's really important that you ride the test to the music afterwards and not just stick to what you've rehearsed time and time again. This is why we encourage you, once you've got your music with the video, to watch it again and again and again and to learn it inside out, so you know inside out. But we're going to go into more detail over the week. This is just an overview and a kind of a snapshot of what we're going to go into detail with to get you inspired. Timing it. Now, most of you will know if you've ridden freestyle, that some who haven't may not, that freestyle has time limits. And these time limits are quite strict. If you go under or over them, you can get penalised. And you don't want that. Because all this lovely hard work you put in, you go and do a fantastic test, everything fits, and you've got a 5-minute limit, and you land on the halt line at 5 minutes 15 seconds. The judge will penalise you. So it's important that you make sure you know how long your freestyle is. Now, importantly, it's not from when you put your hand up at the beginning to start the music, as many people think. It's actually from after your first halt. So you come into the arena, you've got up to 20 seconds of music before you enter at A, and then discretionary down the centre line. When you halt, that's obviously when your marks start, and off you go, and your timing starts, and then you've got to your last halt. And for all of the different levels, you've got up to 5 minutes until Grand Prix, but you've got a little bit more because you've got all that piaffe and passage. But also you need to know at prelim and novice, you're allowed between 4 and 5 minutes, whereas everything else above, it's 4.5 to 5 minutes, which is quite a narrow window. So it's quite an art to make sure you've written a floor plan that works for your combination that's going to end up within those boundaries. There'll be more information of this online. And plus, if you look at the some of the links we've given you, if you download this as a PDF, you can click on the blue links and go straight to the sites. We've got how it works for Equidance to show how you can work with us to make your music and help you along. But there's also for Anna, there's her Facebook for Elite Dressage here, so you can get in touch with her after we've spoken today. There's a link to British Dressage Freestyle page, and it's a really good resource because it also has the guidelines for dressage to music, which is quite a long document. I recommend if you want to get into freestyle, read through it so you know where you are. There's also some links to online riding competitions at the moment. So you've got e-riders and Dressage Anywhere, which if you do have the luxury of having a school nearby and you can get out to ride it, that may be something that you can do when we're under semi-lockdown. Also, there's a great article from the FEI on creating fantastic freestyles with some good input from some international riders. So, well worth a look, well worth a download. Okay, the last thing you need to do with your freestyle floor plan, once you've got one designed, is get it filmed. Because, you know, it's the best thing to film your riding. I remember Kelly used to say to me, can you come up the yard and film me? And I'm like, well, yeah. And I soon figured out why, because we go home and she'd study the videos and she'd watch herself. And she was her own best critic. It's great. It's fantastic to watch yourself and go, oh, I should be doing that. Sit up straight. Oh, my hands aren't straight. Why have I got cram hands and all this sort of stuff? So she could see, and then it would help her to improve her riding. But from a freestyle point of view, it's critical to film it because, of course, we can then look at the different paces and see which music are going to fit on the different paces, and also arrange the music to fit that guide of the floor plan. So hopefully when you go out and ride it again, it'll fit as closely as it can to on any surface. So really important to film it. One thing I'd love to add, though, with filming it is when you go out and film it on your phone, so you get your friend at the yard or your husband or your partner to film it, don't film it like this. This is what we call portrait mode. And it means that I get this lovely little slot in the middle of the screen to look at, and you're doing this all the time, so it's a lot of movement. Just switch it round so it's like a TV and film it in landscape mode, like you're seeing on the screen here. Landscape mode is brilliant. It's great. Just do it in landscape mode, and then I can put it on that lovely big screen up there when we edit, and we can see the whole thing. And you don't have to zoom in. You can just have it from outside the arena and film it. But again, we'll go into more details. What we need to do right now in this broadcast, because we are 17 minutes in, so it's the perfect time, is we need to talk to our very special guest, who hopefully is ready, because the first time I called her tonight, she wasn't. She was in the shower. And then I called her, and she was just about ready, and I successfully insulted her. So now, hopefully, with the magic of the internet, we can go to, ladies and gentlemen, Anna Ross. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Tony. I feel like I've really contributed to the first part of your broadcast because I think there you pointed out every single thing that I did when I sent you my freestyle video. It was in portrait. It was the night before. We were panicking. It was, yeah, Yeah.
It's true. It was true. Yes, it was true. In fact, you've always been last minute with your music, haven't you, Anna?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. I have made his lip tremble a couple of times, although nothing as much as when I suggested to him that not to worry, Tony, I know there wasn't time. We'll just ride them all to the same music to get them qualified. And that, my God, did that offend his sensibilities? There was a quiver in his voice. He said, no, Anna, don't do that. I'll work through the night. Just don't do that.
Yeah, so I'd love to say. I'd love to
say. Share with Tony some of our terrible music blunders in order to basically sort of emotionally blackmail him into doing a good job of it, just gently associating myself with him from time to time. So if we ride to the panpipes once again, then people just might think it's his fault.
Right, fantastic. Yes, Anna and I, we even went out for a meal, didn't we, not so long ago?
Yes, and Beth, with Beth Bainbridge.
Is Beth there with you now? Can we say quick hello to Beth?
Hang on, I can show you Beth.
Hello, Beth.
She's knitting.
Hello, Beth. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. She's doing good. Just I'm knitting a scarf. Just what you need coming into April.
She's knitting.
Yes. Yeah. She's embracing the crafting elements of social isolation, which is quite good because it means we've had bread, homemade bread. I say baked bread. It wasn't totally baked. It was like the prototype. So we, but anyway, it was still bread. And now she's knitting.
This is amazing. So, I thought these sort of things were supposed to come many weeks later when you'd run out of anything else to do and the internet had broken and there was no food.
I think we're going to be on the fuzzy felts fairly soon, to be honest.
And the Lego. You've got a glass of wine. Yeah. That's not fair. That's not fair.
Yeah, we'll be building matchstick bridges soon, I'll tell you.
Wonderful. So listen, let's get started. These are strange times, as we've just been talking about. But how has the virus and this social isolation and everything impacted upon you and your staff? Because you've got quite a team there.
Yeah, we've got quite a decent sized team. Now, obviously, some say we're already isolated because we live very much in mid Devon, which is very, very rural. Our local village doesn't have a shop. We have to go quite out of our way to go and do anything really. So, in terms of the social isolation, well, obviously, I discourage all my staff from having boyfriends anyway, so that's no problem. And we live together and we work together. Right. So the impacts of isolation haven't really hit us in the same way that they have a lot of people.
Right, okay. So basically you're like a dressage cult then.
Yeah, pretty much. You imagine like the Amish community with wine in mid-Devon. I mean, that's us really.
So great. So basically, so it's business as usual in that aspect, I guess, doesn't it? Yeah. So, but what are you doing differently to ensure that your business can adapt in these changing times? I mean, I noticed on your Facebook you were doing something a little bit different this week.
Yeah, we're doing. I mean, normally I coach a lot, and obviously that is just not possible. Apart from my own staff, who obviously work for me, so we're all kind of isolated together as a unit. And so I've been teaching online, which has been really different. It's different challenges. But there's just no way around this. We have to adapt. We have to change. It's not going to change for us.
Absolutely. Why do you think I'm sitting here doing this?
Exactly. And I think it's very simple. We just accept what it is. This is what it is. There's no point talking shoulda, woulda, coulda. Yeah. But that's not really my style anyway, to be honest. I've always been very much a what it is person, what we have now. Yeah. And this is what we have now. And there are a lot of things that we can do that, still that will progress us. And no, of course it's not the same as having your trainer in the arena with you, but there's still many, many things we can do that are an awful lot better than nothing, which is the alternative. So I have been teaching. I've been teaching online, and I've learned a lot of things about doing that. And hopefully I can pass some of that knowledge on and try and get some of the trainers training and the riders riding.
And I hear you've been doing some videos today. I saw that you were asking people for specifics. What did you
we've been doing lots of videos today. It's one of the things that we can do to help support people, hopefully give people a bit of a laugh. I mean, our videos, our outtakes tend to be quite interesting, shall we say. Yeah. I've done one on a sitting trot for the over 45s. Which might have to be on after the 9 o'clock watershed. But anyway,
this is me. I'm over 45. I'm 46.
I know. To be honest, Tony, I did talk about underwear, but I don't know. I mean, it's totally between you and Kelly. You know, everything's fine now. Whatever you want to do, but I didn't really include.
What are you saying about my A-cup? Don't get started on me. You know, I can't ride anyway. I mean, this is you know, and I probably know.
Well, actually, you'd be a very good target to see whether my top tips for sitting trot work or not.
Should we do it one day?
Yes.
Anna Ross trains Tony from Equidance, the most uncoordinated.
I've got a couple of just back 3-year-olds, Tony. There, you'd be cracking on them.
Amazing. Yeah. Do I get like a neck brace that comes as standard with that?
No, but you could play Flying Without Wings on your computer and spin it if you like. You could do your own music.
Oh, great. No, you're not going to get me riding. That's it. No, we'll stop that question. So how have you adopted the training of your horses, talking about your horses? Because obviously you bring quite a few through. So how have you adapted that now?
Well, what we've done actually is we've identified the only thing we can do in this climate really is mitigate our risk. I have 36 fit competition horses in my stables and 7 staff. And therefore, what we've done is we've essentially identified a group of those horses, really the youngest ones, mostly, although one went in by the skin of their teeth, I have to say, on the end of a lunge line, as team headbanger, and those horses have been turned away. So what we've said is, okay, these are, I'm very fortunate, we have many Grand Prix horses in my stables. These are older, very experienced horses. And I'm blessed in that I have 3 international riders in my stables. Now, that doesn't mean we can't and won't have an accident. But what we have done is take steps to mitigate our risk. And it's where all that stuff that we hate doing, like risk assessment and stuff, starts to become a bit more real. You know, this is a real risk assessment. You know, and obviously we are not looking to be a burden on the NHS. The other day I rode a 8-year-old mare, and I thought she's too fresh. And to be honest, in normal circumstances, I probably would have just ridden on, but I got off and lunged her, because I thought this is more sensible. So that's the sort of decision that we're making.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of guess the BHS guidelines are quite vague, aren't they? Because there's no specific government guidelines at the moment around riding. So I guess people have just got to be sensible and not take unnecessary risks. But I think. No, I'm sorry. I was talking because I still go out on my bike occasionally. You know, still I like my cycling because I can control it, unlike a horse. And so, you know, I don't want to go on the main roads or the country roads at the moment because that is putting my risk up. But I've got a helmet on. If I go on the cycle path, which is really wide, and I don't come across anyone, it's highly unlikely I'm going to have an accident. So I shall probably keep going because, we don't want to put burden on the NHS. It's being sensible, isn't it? Yeah. It's being sensible and trying to mitigate, you know, we try to mitigate the risk. And you can't take all risks out of anything in life. But I think statistically, actually, the most dangerous thing I do is get in my car and drive to the stables at the moment. So we have to bear that in mind as well. You know, so a balance of risk, we're certainly not doing the riskier things. We're dressage riders, so we're all fairly terrified of jumping anyway, so that's okay. And so, that's how we've done. Oh, I think that's sensible advice. So, it's funny times actually. I wanted to add another question that we haven't put in on the thing earlier. We have the news today from the Chancellor for self-employed people, which looks fairly promising. What's your take on that? I think it looks fairly promising. It sounds good. I think there are quite a lot of loopholes, particularly for people who have not been self-employed for 3 years. Sure, yeah. Hopefully everyone's got their tax return in, appropriately. They have given a 4-week leeway, so if you've forgotten, you can get your tax return in for last year. I think what they're doing sounds quite fair. But there is a big problem for some people in that they don't think anyone is going to receive any money until June. Yeah. And that is going to be very worrying for a lot of people. However, what
it appears is that the banks and the landlords, etc., are being very much encouraged to be fair and to try to help. So hopefully, if people, rather than sort of getting really scared about it, if people contact the people, maybe they have a direct debit for the car, or their rent, or their council tax, or something, the best thing you can do is get in touch with those people and say that the coronavirus has caused my business, hardship, and I need some help. And I would suggest everyone just got that down in writing. If they're struggling, put it down in writing, and then send an email, because you won't get through to any of these places because they're inundated with worried people. Get it in writing and ask if you can have some of your payments deferred. And I think the big companies are being very much encouraged to take a positive view on that. Although obviously I'm a dressage trainer, not a government advisor on welfare.
Nice caveat.
That's my understanding of it.
Yeah, I think, I was speaking to my accountant this morning, and he kind of had a handle on what was going to be offered today in advance.
Yeah.
And he was saying, but it's all well and good, but the details will have to come out later. It won't come out straight away. So I think we just have to wait. Okay, so also let's talk about freestyle, because that's what we're here to talk about as well.
There's one thing, Tony, that I said I would do, which I must do, and we will talk about freestyle. But I promised I would tell people how I've been doing the remote training.
Yes, absolutely. Now that was an interesting one with the feedback and everything. Go for it.
Yeah, I did promise I would do that, and I think a lot of people have come on this to do that. So how I've done the remote training, and now I'm not like Tony, I don't have all of his technical knowledge. So I deliberately did it in a way that I think most people could do. And Beth and I and some of my clients spent last weekend trying to work out a way that we could remotely train that would be accessible for everybody and worthwhile for everybody.
Yeah.
So just to run through it really quickly, I'll give you a quick rundown, but I do have a list that I've been emailing out to a few people and messaging to a few people of like equipment and tips. If anybody would like that list, or then contact me or contact Tony, and we'll make sure that list gets to you. Basically, you need to be able to train remotely. You need to firstly understand that it's going to be different to normal training. The trainer needs to be slightly more organized than normal. Some people do lesson plans, some people don't, but it's a good idea to have an idea of what you want to do in advance, because then the camera person can be briefed.
Yeah, sure. You
need, at the rider's end, you need 2 phones, a good phone signal, some headphones, just normal iPhone headphones are totally fine, a good zip pocket for your phone to go in, okay, and a fit-ish and ideally slightly horsey camera person. Now, the camera people do have to run around a bit. I had a very gay mum of a talented young rider this morning who has had a Bailey's coffee before she undertook the task at 8:45 and made an admirable job. And actually, we were able to teach her great lessons. She's on lockdown, don't worry. She was only running around her arena. The child was at risk, but nothing else. So what you do is I have a computer and my telephone. I FaceTime one of the phones that is there with the rider, and the camera person follows the rider on FaceTime. I phone the rider and I talk to them down the phone via the headphones.
Cool.
So that is how we're doing it. And for more detail on that, either message me or message Tony, and I've got a list of just tips, where to stand, how big the arena should be, how to get perspective into the arena. But just if you want to get in touch about that, just do message me, and I'll try to make sure that what we found out we pass on. And we're actually trying out some different platforms this weekend as well. But this should be possible for most people with a normal phone and a normal signal to get some work done. It's not the same as your normal training, but you can certainly train and improve. We've done piaffe passage, we've done counter pirouettes, we've been doing the whole lot. You just have to be a bit more organised and a bit laterally thinking.
And you have to have signal.
You do have to have signal. You can do it on 4G.
Yes.
You can do it on 3G.
Yes.
Obviously, the best is Wi-Fi, but not that many people have Wi-Fi to the arena.
Yeah.
Having said that, if you have an electric socket anywhere near your arena, you can get these little dongle things that you can just plug in. And one of my clients has had great success with that. They plug the thing in near the arena, and the signal is really good. Yeah,
that's the EE ones. They're really good.
Yeah, so that works really well. So again, we won't go on and on and on about all the little bits and details, but if anyone wants to give it a go or wants that information, just let us know.
Yeah.
I've just got to swap wine glasses, Tony.
You can get in touch with us. Swap wine glasses. Oh my God, have you got a refill off? Oh my word, you've got a refill off camera.
Preparation is all. I'm a dressage rider. I'm meticulous. Thank you.
Okay, so I think, ladies and gentlemen, obviously, if you want to get some training done with Anna, then get in touch directly with her, but we can also have that information available for you. So, yeah, absolutely. What a great idea. Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you. Now, let's talk a little bit about freestyle too. Give us some tips on how to design a good floor plan from your perspective. What do you reckon?
Well, I think it's really important to remember that it isn't a dressage test, particularly at the lower levels, simply because we're all a bit inclined to ride, our 20-meter circle from a marker, or, we're a little bit institutionalized like that. So things like you have to enter on the center line and halt, but you don't have to carry on down the center line. You could veer off to the left or the right. You could circle away, things that are innovative. Everybody goes, well, almost everybody goes trot, walk, canter, for example, for a novice test. Now, if your horse has got a good balanced canter, why not start in canter? That can be, different for the judge. If you don't start on the centre line, that's different for the judge. What is important in that being innovative, that the test plan does not become really confusing. So it's choosing that trying to find that balance between innovation and something that looks a bit like somebody just got a pen and scribbled on a piece of paper, basically. So that's and followed the line around.
Yeah, because you've got to make those moves obvious, haven't you? Like the circles have got to be obvious, and things. Yes. The judge likes to know when things are coming up, so they can mark it correctly. They're not like, oh, what? Okay, and then they forget, and it's quite hard, isn't it, to judge with the music and the movements and everything going on. It's really quite hard to judge, even at novice. So make it obvious.
Yeah, I think so. But the other thing I think that's really important, because I do like a bit of dressage to music, despite what Tony thinks, is that it is dressage to music. It's not dressage with music. And this is really, really important, is that the music should accentuate what you're doing, and you should be able to pick up those musical cues. So, you do need to know your floor plan incredibly well, but if you have if you're waiting for a musical cue or a crescendo, don't just go, blindly off across the diagonal like some sort of lemming, because that's what it says on your bit of paper. You're there to interpret that music. And on different arena surfaces, you will run a little bit fast and a little bit slow, and you've got to be ready for that. There is no point getting to your show and thinking, this is not for OCD people, okay? No. Can't come out of your test and say, well, that was meant to happen there. Most of the time, it doesn't. No. Sometimes Beth, who is the most brilliant interpreter of music and making opera at the ender that I've ever met, I have to say, I have no idea where she's gone, and often it's because she's cut a corner, because she knows that the horse doesn't like that corner or something. She knows the music so well, and she just makes it up. In fact, Tony, you don't know this, and it's going to hurt you.
Oh no, what now?
But Beth actually trotted through the walk music and got away with it, because the horse was leaping about in the first part of the test the other day, and then managed to put 40 meters of walk into half the walk music, including a bit of a change of, where you make the music sound different, fitted it in, did all the compulsory movements, finished at the end. This was pre-St. George level, and still holds to the eggs.
Okay.
So she is the queen. I know that's hurting, Tony, but
Listen. I don't care as long as she hit the pirouettes.
Yeah, you can't get away with that. There's some things you cannot get away with. No, she span it round like Kylie Minogue, I promise you. But you have to be prepared for that. And for example, an example of an arena, Wellington riding, in their international arena at the top, the fence is quite high, and the crowd are very close to the fence. And that tends to make the horse back off a little bit, the fence line. Yeah. So very often you find yourself slightly on the inside of the track because the horse stays a little bit away from the crowd. And the cumulative effect of that is that you can be going a bit fast and get ahead of your music because you're covering less ground. So whereas a very open arena, as for example, an arena inside another big arena, you tend to run absolutely bang on. So be prepared for the unexpected, but that is part of the fun, definitely.
Oh, amazing. That's some really good tips there. And I mean, we see it time and time again. We really try and help our riders with that, to understand that, because it is, you've just got to go out and ride your music and adjust every time and think that little bit ahead, but knowing your music inside out and knowing where you should be at any point in time is crucial. And hopefully you should have the musical cues and the da-da-da-da-da-da, it's coming, that sort of stuff. So,
and another one that is really important is to plan a shortcut. Yes. I'm going to be honest here. Beth is messaging me on my screen.
Beth, thank you. Get back to your knitting.
Plan a shortcut. The things like catching up in your walk music, which is what she did on that occasion. It is ideal if you know where you can get back to the point. The walk often being the place is a really good idea. So have your contingency. You would be amazed how many top riders win freestyle dressage tests with using a different route entirely to the one they planned.
Also, joker lines. Tell me about joker lines.
Well, joker lines they are a good idea in some cases. If we're talking about national level, you can have a joker line, which basically means you leave a spare line. And my interpretation of a joker line is you leave a spare line and you use it or you don't use it. So you do all your compulsory movements, and then you have this one line at the end where you repeat something that you that you may have messed up.
Yeah, like tempes or something.
But I always blame the horse. So in my case, the horse might have messed it up.
Okay.
And that can be a really good idea. I think the judges usually know if you suddenly start repeating things. It can bring your score up a bit. At FEI level, you actually have to submit your floor plan in advance now.
You do now.
So you can't get away with it. But certainly a lower level, being able to repeat a compulsory movement that you've sort of stuffed up can be a good idea. I mean, plan A really should be that everything works. Some people are comfortable with a plan B. Some people who, like a bit of a thrill, want, just have plan B as plan A works. And I like that one a bit more sporty.
Yeah, I'm not sure with the FEI, with the submitting of the floor plan, I think that's more to help the judges so they know what they've got to be marking. I'm not sure, I might be wrong, but I don't think you get marked down if you don't do it exactly the same. So you are allowed a joker line, I think. Because there was a big
I think you can have one or not have one.
Yes, I think that's
and then they're up sort of down to a degree of difficulty. But to be fair, we're talking about World Cup qualifiers there.
Yeah,
so.
And then there's you type into the website for the degree of difficulty mark, it all gets very complicated.
Yeah, the computer does that. But to be honest, Tony, since we can't even get to a show at the moment, we probably don't need to worry too much about what they're doing in the World Cup.
No, we don't need to worry about that. And let's also say we're really sad that the Olympics aren't happening this year. That's a real shame. And hopefully we can talk to someone on the show about that who was going to be going there soon. That would be good, wouldn't it? Watch this space. But music-wise, freestyle music, we love our riders to enjoy their music. If you would have any music that you could pick to go out there and just go, oh, yes, my favourite tunes, what would it be?
Tony, I only watch Clip My Horse on FEI TV. I have no idea of the outside world. I have whatever music you tell me I have.
We like customers like this. We like customers like this.
Yeah, there is. I'm not a musical person. I listen to LBC Radio 4 and I come home and I watch Clip My Horse. I have no musical preferences.
So if you cut you in half, it just says horse like a stick of rock then?
Well, yeah, I mean, Beth and I will be watching stallion videos after this, won't we, Beth? Yeah. Sorry, so sad we are.
I don't know how to interpret that, but I'll just take it as your actual stallion.
Yeah, maybe Black Beauty, something like that. Oh. The music from Black Beauty, that's my nickname.
Oh, that's been used a few times, that one.
That's it. Yeah, I'll take it with that.
Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Is there anything else you want to say at the moment, or should we just go to some questions?
No, we can go to some questions. That's fine, depending on what they are.
Okay, hang on a minute. Kelly's over here with the questions.
Why don't you tell me the name of the person asking the question, Tony, and then I'll decide whether I want to answer it or not.
Okay, I've got one here. When doing a floor plan, this is Claire Carter. When doing a floor plan, is it best to do all one pace at a time to avoid too many music changes and run the risk of getting behind doing nothing on one rein than the other?
Is it better to do? So, do you mean doing like all the trot together and all the canter together? Do we think?
I think so. When doing a floor plan, it's best to do all one pace at a time to avoid too many music changes. Yes.
Well, I think it's. Sorry to interrupt. I think it is. That for me is always a bit of a. It's a bit trying to find the balance between originality and it being interesting, and it's simply sounding choppy. So I would say, Tony, I would throw that one back to you and say it is due to down to the technical genius of the person being.
Well, I do have an answer for that, actually. What I would say is that if you have too many changes of pace, then the music loses its flow. And if the music loses its flow, it can sound all bitty and confused. So it would be better. Sometimes people put the canter either side of the walk, which is nice. So you've got your symmetrical set, and obviously your 220 meters, but they're either side of a walk. So it's nice on each rein, and that's kind of works. But if it's kind of trot, walk, walk, counter, walk, trot, it doesn't work with music, you know?
No.
It loses the flow. Yeah, it just sounds all bitty and annoying and confusing, and it doesn't have the flow. Whereas, it's like putting a rein back in. It's that common joke. Someone came to me with a rein back, and I was like, first time I'd seen a rein back in a freestyle, and they stopped at C and went back 4 strides. So I stopped the music and spun it back like a record. What else can I do with it? And actually, it was quite a gimmick, but you can only do it once. What else do you do with a rein back? So, there are certain things that work better and certain things that don't. But you're absolutely right. It's balancing it with with the originality. But people need to remember there is no extra marks for degree of difficulty until medium and above. So
that's very important.
Okay. Oh, and on that note, we've got another question. Can you explain the difficulty mark? How can I up my marks, increase my marks?
Well, it's about balance of risk. So if you, for example, a way to increase your difficulty at medium level would be to ride a certain time in counter-canter with a simple change, changing you to, if you like, the wrong lead.
Yes.
So you ride the entire serpentine like that. Now, if you do that, if you do it well, the judge is probably going to be pretty impressed.
Yeah.
If you make a dog's dinner of it, you're going to get a very low mark. So that mark is really about risk, how much risk you are prepared to take. I had a pony rider once who used to start her test in canter, in counter-canter. So she went straight up in counter-canter, on a slight diagonal line, round the short side, rode a serpentine. I mean, and that was really good. She got a lot of marks for that. It came off really, really well. Also doing for example, a medium trot into a half pass or something like that, one-handed work, that sort of thing, works really well and can get you a lot of marks. Lara Edwards did a great test in Le Mans, and she did 2 sets of 2 tempi changes directly towards the judge one-handed. And that was pretty impressive. The changes were great. She was, fantastic in it. She got loads of marks for degree of difficulty. So I would say yes, but if it doesn't come off, you'll go down. So you increase your chances of winning, if you like, if you make it complicated and you come up. But really, balance and harmony is always going to win over a compilation of circus tricks, you know, sort of scratched together. So I think the judges, I'm not a judge, but I think that most of the judges would rather see a really lovely, balanced, harmonious picture to great music than they would you sort of try to pull off every trick in the book and it going, you know, a bit peaked on.
Yeah, that's the icing on the cake, really. It's a gamble that you take, isn't it? But I mean, if you can do those technically difficult pieces, you do it after you've already got some good marks of doing something a bit more harmonious and simple. If a horse is green at that level, do what it can do well. Ride the music, and I think you're absolutely right there. Get the harmonious. We've got another one. How to be a right, so it's very interesting, this one. This is for you because it's about floor plans. How can you be more imaginative at the lower levels?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is really where you do need a good imagination. I think the really good tip is don't use the markers.
Yeah.
If you take all the markers away, the markers in some ways are sort of limiting.
Yeah.
Take the markers away, but keep it symmetrical. And remember, there's a lot of kind of, I suppose, a little bit more sort of old-fashioned school exercises that we used to ride. That we don't anymore. I say sounding a bit aged, but things like reverse half circles, shallow loops, half diagonal lines, so from the corner to A or C, that sort of thing. And remember interpretation. You know, if you watch the ice skating, they sort of do their amazing little triple somersault things, and then they do a little dancey bit, and then they do another triple somersault. So don't ever think, oh, that's a waste of time. You know, I've just got to get from that to that to that to that. You know, I've got to get from this movement to this movement to this movement. If it looks nicer or more elegant, if you put like a waved line in, you could do a serpentine down the centre line maybe of 5 metre loops. That always looks nice. It's not in tests. Try and think of things that are not in tests and movements that are not in tests, and do things in places that are not there. But one thing that can really help is removing the markers. Don't think about doing things from markers.
Yeah, one thing I really love seeing is 10-metre circles in the middle of the arena on elementary. You know, instead of just being at a marker on the side somewhere where you've got the fence there or the edge of the arena to have as a border, and you can get some really lovely figure of 8 work, all sorts. Yeah. I've seen some incredible tests.
Sorry, Tony. The one thing I would say about that is that you have to be extremely accurate. If you are going to ride movements in the middle of the arena, there's no place for 12 or 13-metre circles that are meant to be 10. You have to be really clear about what you're doing. Otherwise, you may find that the judge thinks you've missed out a compulsory movement.
Yeah.
So the more imaginative you are, the more accurate you've got to be. If you're using, for example, 3/4 lines, they mustn't be anywhere near the track, or you look a bit like you've just lost your way and you're drifting.
Yeah.
So you have to be very geometrically correct.
Yeah.
The more imaginative you are, in a funny way, the more artistic you are, the more sort of geometrically correct you have to be in order that it comes off.
Oh, we've got another question here. It's Ronnie May. Hi, Ronnie May. How are you? If you make your music to your floor plan, what happens if the paces change because of training has improved the horse's way of going? Do you ride to the music, or do you ride to what will get you better marks? That's a really interesting point. So, shall I start on that one?
Yeah.
Well, we often get clients come back as the horse improves its training, the paces change. So we get horses where their trot develops and the tempo of the trot actually slows and becomes more collected, and that's very common. Often we find the walk and canter's pace stays about the same, but it's often the trot that changes. So if you've got a horse and you're going up the levels, you've got to have to really change your music anyway. So if you're going from an elementary to a medium or up to a PSG, you're going to need to change because it's going to be a totally different floor plan. Often you can ride a novice in elementary the same because you're adding a little bit of lateral work in the elementary. But if you're going to go up the levels, then yeah, you're going to need to re-edit your trot and maybe get the tempo changed. Maybe the same piece of music, but just change the tempo. If you're riding the same level, it only has to be close as damn it. It doesn't have to be bop on. So you've got to decide whether you want to spend the money on getting the trot editing or the time on doing it yourself, changing the tempo or changing the music, or whether you want to just go, we'll just start again. Most horses will go through and have a couple or more pieces of music throughout their performance career. What do you think?
I think absolutely, but what you said makes total sense, because the trot is, of course, we always say, the easiest pace to change. And I think you could say something about accentuating certain things, though, couldn't we? Like I said to you, we have one horse that gets very excited in the walk, and I said, Tony, don't put a strong beat on that.
Yeah.
You know, so you can slightly mitigate that. Now, trot is a trot. You can't do anything with that. The trot beat is a trot beat. And I think it's best to accept, be pleased if you have to change your music, because it probably means you've improved your horse. That's great. As trots develop and become more cadenced over time, that hopefully should happen in your training. So don't be sad if you have to change your music. Be happy because you've trained your horse. But the walks and the canters, I think, stay pretty much the same. But definitely don't accentuate something that you know can come and go. As I said, that particular horse can rush a little bit through the walk. We don't, obviously, we try to train it not to, but still, but we left a little wiggle room there, so we didn't have a beat picking out each footfall. So you can do some things.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I've been given a really tricky question here. Thanks, my producer.
Oh, don't give it.
It's not for you. It's for me. This one. Well, you're going to have to help me with this one, though. I tell you. So it's from Catherine Brown. Thanks for this, Catherine Brown. How do you get music unique to your horse? Now, of course, everyone would love to have music unique to their horse, and you can do it. But the only true way to get unique music to your horse is to have music written for you, which we can do, and other people can do as well. But it's very expensive because it involves a whole process of creating something from scratch with many days of work, and so it becomes very expensive. However, there are other ways to find music that's very unique, well, almost unique to your horse. Of course, there are only so many instrumentals in the world, which means that you are kind of limited to a certain extent on what's available that's going to suit your horse. And there are, but having said that, there's 6 million pieces of instrumental music available. So how far do you want to look? If you come to a company like us, we look hard at your styles and delve deep into the internet to find whatever we can. And we try our hardest not to replicate the same thing for different people. Well, especially not the same food tracks at the same level. We just wouldn't do that. What's that? Run out of wine? Was that the international sign language for I've run out of wine, Beth? So Catherine, yes, you can get unique music for your horse, but you could do your homework. So if you're going to get your freestyle done, do some homework and literally scour the darkest depths of YouTube and Spotify, and find some really cool instrumental acts or something that you love, that you think is going to suit as a starting point, and then come to us and let's get something sorted.
Can I interject,
yes, of course.
Tony? Well, in fact, hang on, we just need to just have an interval. We're just having an interval. Hold on 1 second, and then I've got something to say. So excuse me.
Hang on, I don't think I've got any lift music to play.
Dehydration is very dangerous. They teach you that on World Class, people. The first thing I learned, and as you can see, here I am setting that Chinese bubble. Now, there's something that I think is quite important to say here before I say what I'm going to say in answer to that question. Yeah. And that is that, believe it or not, Tony and Kelly and Equidance don't sponsor me.
No, we don't.
I can categorically say they don't sponsor me. I pay for my music, and I've actually happily paid for my music each time because I think it's worth it. And that's the honest truth. So I'm not here because Tony's got my arm up behind my back. The reason I am working with you, and the reason I don't mind paying you for my music, is because you have come up with incredibly original music for my horses that I would never, ever have found myself. If it was me, we would be on Feeling Groovy and Pretty Woman.
There's nothing wrong with Feeling Groovy and Pretty Woman.
Plays whatever, because frankly, I have a very low volume threshold, and that is what would have happened. And the entire reason I work with you, and one of the reasons that I decided to use his music was actually because of that. But I want everyone to know that I do pay for it, because I wouldn't want someone to think that I was saying that for any other reason than.
And I thought it's because I had a pretty face and we went out for dinner. Oh.
No, it's not because of that, Tony. If you remember rightly, I'd already paid for my music when we went out for dinner.
You had actually. You had.
You can take me out for another dinner for saying that if you want. I mean, I'm all up for that.
You know, well.
He says he never take her out anyway.
Social distancing and all that.
Oh yeah. you can order me a Domino's.
Cheers, my guy. Cheers. I'm joining her now. So yeah, sorry, folks at home, if you haven't got a glass of wine and you haven't had a home delivery like we have, then cheers. This is Equidance. We're coming near the end, but I've got 2 more questions. This one's for you. This one's for you because I wouldn't know the answer to this, unfortunately, because I'm not a rider. Are you allowed to have more than one flying change on a straight line at advanced medium? If so,
yes.
how many? If so, now this is from Becky Latimer. Becky's great. She's a good client as well. How many strides do you need between them to prevent them from being linked? Oh, what a good question!
Shall I tell you?
Go on.
I know a man who knows this.
Yeah.
Beth Bainbridge is a List 3 judge and qualified to judge music, handily. So Beth will be able to tell you the answer to that question, won't you, Beth? Yes.
Hello, Beth. How are you doing?
Honestly, Beth, well, I'll just sit off.
So, Beth, how many can you do flying changes the straight line, advanced medium? If so, how many strides do you need between them to prevent them from being a combination?
Yes, you do. They have to be more strides than tempi changes. So they have to be more than 4 strides, and they have to be every 5 or 6 strides. I personally would recommend that they are 6 strides or more, because then I think it is much more obvious than a tempi change on every 4 strides. But every 6 strides, that's what I would do. And
would that be good marks, Beth? Would that be good marks?
Would that be
good marks?
Yes, yeah. Your degree of difficulty would be really high, because you're linking them up on a straight line. So yeah, I think that would be good.
There we go, Becky. You heard it there.
Personally, back to me. Sorry, what can I say? I would just say that I actually had this conversation with a client the other day, because as soon as people start to do that, it makes me nervous.
Right.
So we actually, because I know someone who did get marked down, but it was some time ago, for having them looking a bit like tempi changes. Right. So I would say, if you're going to do them like that, do 1 on 6, 1 on 7. Don't pick up a rhythm. Although there was a clear directive, which possibly came from there being some sort of some discrepancies in scores. Just don't pick up a rhythm if you're riding them, because otherwise it starts to look like tempis and then it gets a bit complicated. What I do know is that if the judges all get together at the end of your test, it's never to discuss how well you've done.
I hadn't thought of that. Okay,
so don't confuse them, and don't be controversial in that. You've got to be clever, but not a smarty pants.
So that's great. That's really good information. We got a question from Megan Rigg. Hi, Megan. How you doing? She's asking for a green horse at PSG. What's the best place to put the tempi changes?
Well, are we in the circle of trust here?
Yeah. Are we in the circle of trust?
Ask them how many people we got on this?
I don't know. There must be 130 people watching at the moment.
Oh, well, that's fine then. Just a small group. To be honest, Megan, if your horse is a bit green in the changes, I would try and put them directly face onto the judge on a line from the top diagonal. I feel at this moment I should be able to say what those markers are, having used them for 30 years. But anyway, if you're furthest away, you're down the bottom end of the arena.
Yeah.
What is it? All King, K. We're at K. Yeah. Do them directly towards C, because then your judge can't really see the hind legs.
K or F.
K or F. So just say your horse forgot one of his hind legs and the changes. Well, what the eye can't see, the judge's heart can't grieve after, can it? So that would be my advice. Unless they're really crooked, in which case I'd angle them off a bit. Just so you're not coming on a straight line towards the judge. But I would most horses make changes late behind if they're going to have in the early stages.
Yeah, it's that honest little buck, isn't it? It's like, whoa!
Yeah, when they do that, Tony. Yeah, yes. That's it. Like they've got a wooden one on the back.
Yes. I filmed a horse in near Essex a few weeks ago, And the person, if they're watching, will know exactly who this is. It was learning its changes, and every time it did a change, it went.
No,
weirdest
sing
thing.
its own music.
I was filming at sea, and it did a change at sea, and it went. And I just jumped. I was like, "What was that?" She goes, "Don't worry, he'll do it every time he's got a change."
Oh, bless! He's cheering himself on.
We've got one more question here from Ellie Roberts. Let's say, Megan, I hope that answers your question there. You can always message in and we can elaborate. But Ellie Roberts, can you do PSG canter half pass in advanced medium music?
No, I'm being told from the knitting judge on my left. You have to put a 10-meter circle in.
Yes.
So do your half pass, then do it. It's quite a nice looking thing, actually. If you do your half pass like for the PSG, then do a flying change, then do a 10-meter circle, and then do the half pass again. To be honest, it looks quite nice anyway. And if you do it in the middle of the arena, it looks really nice as well. Do it from the 3/4 line to the 3/4 line. You'll look great.
There we go. I hope that's okay. Right, I think we are exhausted on questions now. So all I've got left to say really is, do you mind staying there a minute, Anna? I'm just going to wind it up and we'll both say goodbye.
No, I was going out.
This is it. This is like our social life now, all online, look. Isn't this great? We hope that you heard it all very well this evening and can see it all okay. Your feedback will be really appreciated because we've got Levi Hunt coming next week onto the screen to talk about some training techniques as well at this time. And then the following week, we've got the wonderful Isabel Wessels coming to talk about judging too. So there'll be lots of opportunity for questions, but we need your feedback to make sure it's as good as possible. So, yeah. Stay in touch. Next week, we're not going to be doing Thursday, and there's a reason why. There's another show going out on Thursday, so we're going to do Wednesday instead. And if this becomes a thing, we'll continue on with Wednesdays. So it'll be Wednesday nights, 8 o'clock. But just follow the page, watch the website. If you haven't got the PDF file yet, download it from our website. It's www.equidance.co.uk. Get in touch with us about anything that Anna or myself said tonight, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye, Anna. Thank you so much.
Bye, Tony. Bye-bye.
Really enjoyed that. I'll speak to you later. Bye, folks.